Hi, everybody. It's Amalia Janoon, founder of S.T.E.M Braids and Beyond and host of the Silver Bullet podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest. We started chatting before the podcast started, and you guys are in for, I am in for a treat. You guys are in for a treat. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how everybody can get in touch with you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Bri'onna Williams, and I can be reached via LinkedIn at Bri'onna Williams. That's Brionna. Last name is Williams.
I love your story of how you found a place in STEM because to me, it's similar to my journey and a lot of the other journeys of the guests I interview. Go ahead and tell us how you got
Yes,
started.
yes. So I got started in STEM. To know me, I was the talkative girl in school. I always would do my work, but I had to have a voice. I had to debate. I had to, get my point across. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer who walked in the streets of New York, who had the biggest cases of them all. But along the journey, things were a little different. I had a dream of going to Clark Atlanta at one point, but that didn't happen. So I decided to go to a community college. My community college that I went to, although I grew up in the Prince George's County area, I decided to go to one that wasn't exactly local to my peers. So I went to this community college, and at that time, it was only 5% of minorities there. So I stood out. I went on to get my associate's degree, um, taking classes catered towards the arts and that nature. My last semester, I had one teacher who happened to be a extremely difficult chemistry teacher. While in her class, she's like, when you transfer, pick a STEM field. And I'm like, no, I want to be a lawyer. She's like, no, pick a STEM field. I'm like, but I want to be a lawyer. This is my dream. This is all I've ever dreamed of. So I said, okay. I transferred to an HBCU. There were three majors at Morgan State, and it was computer science, electrical engineering, and information science and systems. I said, well, out of those three, what's the easiest? Less math. Although I'm naturally good at it, I just wanted to, because I always wanted to be a lawyer. I picked information science and systems, and lo and behold, I thrived. And
Mm.
that's where my STEM field and my background really developed. If you would have asked me that maybe when I was in fifth grade, eighth grade, or even graduated from high school, I would be today walking the streets of New York as a big lawyer. But God had other plans for me. And what I learned through this journey is that it only takes one person to deposit a seed of, you know, just encouragement, of hope in you, and it can change your life. So being in my field, I feel like it's the best thing that can ever happen for me, because I was the little black girl that's a lawyer, but now I'm the grown black woman who is dominating in my field in which I am today.
So something interesting I want to point out here, and you said it like it takes one person believing in you, but I think bigger than that, there was something about what that teacher said to you that resonated in a sense that you could say you said, I can do this. Do you feel like?
Yes, she said I was smart.
Wow.
She repeatedly always told me, you are smart, you are bright, you can do this. Now, I'm not going to say like I was the best in chemistry. No, I'm not. But I could understand concepts. I am able to look at the end of a problem and work backwards to find the steps to get the solution. Just
Mm.
that's just the way my brain works. So,
Was
um,
it the first was it the first time you had heard somebody say you were smart?
no, my mom, she always raised me
Our
to,
moms always say that.
yeah,
Who else?
to affirm me. Um, I I just thought I was going to be a lawyer. I did so well in English. I had good grades. Like the standard for my mom, you know, C's mean you're average. If you can get a B, you can get an A. So I was a good student.
Wow.
But for me, being in chemistry class in which I thought I was struggling, it wasn't my strong suit. She just was like, "You are smart. You are smart. You can
Right.
do this."
And this is a teacher who may have taught other students because, like, similar to you, like my work experiences where I discovered that I had STEM aptitude. And when they were like, "Man, you're so strong in STEM," I was like, "Really?" And so I was working on Lean Six Sigma, and to me, it seemed like average contributions, but they thought, I mean, child, they should give me an Olympic medal the way these people were talking. And I was just like, and that propping up, I would say propping up because I didn't have the confidence initially until the end, gave me the confidence to pursue a master's, not really having any science training beyond high school. Like that's crazy.
Yes.
That it takes you your whole life. And something I want to highlight here, and we were talking about this before, is that STEM skills and aptitude are visible to the eye. And so the Black community is not educated enough on being able to look at a kid and say, "Hey, you should be in STEM." Even the teachers, I mean, and that's not to knock teachers, it's because of the lack of training. Would you say?
Yes, I think it's the lack of training, the lack of awareness of what skills are um, STEM related. I feel
Right.
like within our community, a lot of children are pushed more to sports or athletics or the arts, and there's nothing wrong with those things, right? But you're able to break down and problem solve, track trends of data, um, do things repeatedly into perfect. Those are an engineering mindset, and I think that those skills should be encouraged. They should be developed at a young age, and they also should have more opportunities for people to thrive in all communities across the U.S.
Absolutely. So I
Yeah.
want to unpack something. You said that you wanted to be a lawyer. What inspired that first dream?
I grew up watching shows with my granny. It's a show. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a law show.
Mhm.
And I always had a voice. I would like to debate. I like to get my opinion across, and I was a fact checker.
Yeah,
When Y2K happened in the internet, I think it was the best thing for me because I can research anything in the world. Um, Beyond that, I was an avid reader, and reading to me took me to different places that I could only imagine at a young age because I was an only child, so I didn't have siblings. So my imagination and just, you know, I was ready to explore and I wanted to defend my opinion, defend the facts. So that's what sparked my dream.
oh wow. So in hindsight, I know you said that right now you're thriving in your field. In hindsight, looking at your interests as a child, I have an opinion of it, but let's see if you have one. Could you look back at your childhood and see how natural interests you had as a child would have made you an ideal candidate for the field you're in?
Yes, I do because I am an avid researcher. I'm able to problem solve um, with wanting to do fact checking. I am able to brief my senior executives at work with, the data. So yes, I can see looking back. At that time, of course, I couldn't, but now, yes, I can. Hmm.
So, one of the things you keep saying is fact checking, which is like one of my favorite things to discuss. What about fact checking connects to STEM or even the field you're in? Because someone listening may not know.
So fact checking, I think that and people should do this in every field. You have to look at the data. Com- I feel like when you look at the data, you process it, you look at the past trends, you do the research, do an analysis. Why is the data this? What is the information? Where did the data come from? I think that helps me because of my current job now. I'm an auditor for systems. I'm in cybersecurity slash systems engineering, and being an information system security owner at one point, it was all fact checking. Do you have the documentation? Do you have the configurations on your system that are implemented correctly to make sure that the system is secure? So I think that that's very important. I think fact checking is important because you are able to do the right thing and get things right the first time. It also builds integrity and trust, right? When you have correct data and analysis, and it even if the facts are incorrect, it gives an opportunity to learn, to transfer those skills to other people, to collaborate with other teams, you know, and lessons learned.
Absolutely. One of the things that I actually used to joke when I first started this research is I used to joke that the girls who had the quick snapbacks and always looking for receipts to prove somebody didn't know what they were saying, those girls would be great for STEM
Yes,
because you can break down a problem and be like, well, this online said, and you.
yes.
And I was like, where the underrepresented community is ripe for the picking in STEM. Do you feel like?
Yes, I do. And I just hope in the future we can continue to build the communities and thrive more, because whether it's any little black girl, little black boy, brown girl, we have the skills. We can thrive. We just need the push, the motivation, and to believe within ourselves.
The resources to accompany don't tell me that you believe in me, but just like an athlete needs the tools to be able to be an exceptional athlete, so do the academic resources need to be poured into the Black community. What do you wish you knew sooner? And as you're answering that, I don't think I had asked you what your job title was, because I want the kids to be able to have something to be able to say, I want to be a software engineer like Miss Bri'onna. So give me a title, and what do you wish you knew sooner about STEM and what your life is unfolding to be?
I am a senior cyber slash systems engineer.
Tell
Um,
us.
heavy right now. I'm moving more towards auditing on the systems engineering side. One thing that I wish that I knew earlier in this field, you can thrive even when you don't know the answers. There is
Wow.
someone always willing to share information that they know. Be brazen and bold in who you are and confident, and be willing to ask for help.
Something I skipped over before, but I think it's worth bringing up here. Did you have to do every um, science in order to pursue your degree? One of the things I didn't know is that you can specialize in one area of STEM and still do well. Do you feel that way, or did you have to do biology, chemistry, every science in order to do what you're doing today?
No, I did biology, chemistry, the basics. How I got into cyber is not how anyone else got into cyber. It is nothing but, I think, just my journey where God led me. Because a little background of how I got into cyber, I was always into STEM, but I started out as a financial systems analyst doing SQL in my career when I worked for the Big Four. So I did that contract for a while. I became a mom, and I switched and I did configurations management for the Air Force. And there it was a different ball game from supporting a non-DoD entity to now DoD entity. Things were more serious, more highly visible. I
Mhm.
met with senior stakeholders, and I like configurations management, But I told one of my coworkers, I want to get into cyber. I want to get into cyber. I like what you're doing. The re-accreditation was coming up for our system. So I'm like, I want to help. Just let me help. So, funny story, my daughter was exactly 6 months. They
Mhm.
said, okay, I'm going to send you to Security Plus boot camp. I
Mhm.
had no background in Security Plus. I mean, of course, I knew IT skills, things like that, from internships and working in my field. But I took a boot camp. It was 4 days long. You test on the fifth day, and I passed. I'd
Wow.
never studied for the Security Plus. I was a new mom with a 6-month-old baby, and they're
Wow.
like, "You have it. You have it." Most people can't pass the Security Plus in 4 days, but I was determined and I wanted the opportunity to support that contract and learn those skills. From that moment, I supported my coworker. I started learning all the things that you need for RMF policies, all the steps.
Mhm.
RMF is the risk management framework, and that's where you have to accredit systems so that they're secure for our government. So I did that. And then I got another opportunity to support a really major contract at the Pentagon. And
Mm.
I became a security controls assessor. And that's when my whole cyber experience, my journey took off. But had it not been for me having those opportunities before, me being determined, I didn't know that I would pass. I was determined to pass. I know
Mm.
that I stayed up every night for 4 days studying to make sure that I had the opportunity to get those skills.
Absolutely. So one thing I want to pull out, because I didn't realize you had a configuration management segue, but what sort of transferable skills? Because most people in the underrepresented community have working class jobs. And what they don't realize is that the skills from another job can transfer effortlessly with certification. You don't always have to go back to get a degree. What sort of transferable skills from another field or another job that may be non-STEM do you think can easily transition to a computer science or information technology kind of job?
I think if you have a background in, like, say for instance, you're a retail manager, you take inventory, right? You take inventory, and you see that there are a lot of items maybe selling out, often. That could transfer to configurations management, because the management, you identify some changes that need to be made on a system. You bring it to senior executives, like retail, they have to bring it to their regional directors. And that's a configurations management opportunity. The same thing with inventory auditing. Auditing can be transferred to systems engineering, because you're auditing your merchandise, and you're finding the gaps and the holes, and that could be a systems engineering role. It's a In addition, another one I feel that may be overlooked. If you work, let's say, we can not like step out of retail. What about nursing, like a nursing degree or CNA, where you're um, helping people and doing data entry. Data entry, you can transfer it to health or informatics, where you can take the data from all your patients, look at the trends of their system, their symptoms when they're sick, and then track, okay, these patients from this age to this age with this symptoms, how can we improve their health? So there's a lot of roles and skills that people have, and that can be transferred to the STEM fields.
Absolutely. I so love this. Like before I pursued my master's, I actually was contacted for a management role. And at the time I was an executive assistant. And the person said the same skills an executive assistant used, so does a configuration manager. And I was like, what? I mean, these are some of the simple transferable skills that sometimes our community doesn't know. but the other communities know how they know how to do it. That I feel like I want to pull out of you is a degree required, or how heavily reliant is your industry on certifications and being able to find hacks into your field instead.
So I've been into cyber a little bit before the big boom, but I can say that in order to get into cybersecurity, the type of work that I do, which is defense, live a healthy, fruitful life. A security clearance is very important.
Okay.
So while you're having a ton of fun, enjoying your 20s, maybe early 30s, I think that it's very important to make wise decisions because
Yes.
it can affect you in the long run.
The
Um,
opportunity.
yes,
Yeah.
and the opportunities. And there's always room for grace. So mistakes happen and there's grace. Um, I do think that for cybersecurity specifically, finding your niche. So I know there's a push for no education, just get a Splunk certification, just get a security plus. Um, I think that education and internships can help build your confidence because in cyber, you are underrepresented. There will not be a lot of people that look like you. So just getting that training in school and maybe getting those internships will help build your confidence to work with senior stakeholders because they expect you to know. And when you're implementing and recertifying and checking configurations of these major facing systems. Although mistakes happen, I think it's important to have the background to fact check so that you know, are presenting the right data. But you can get into cybersecurity with a Security Plus. Um, that's the minimum degree I would suggest. I would say I think a, a CISSP and or CISA, which is the auditor degree. I mean the auditor certification. I think that's a good start. But I also think that you need that experience and that training to go along with it. Splunk is another certification that will be very helpful in cyber as well. But other than that, you just need the confidence and the determination so that someone can, you know, want to give you a shot. But I think that anyone can get into this field. I truly do.
Because you talk about working with major stakeholders, there's so many parallels in our journey. And when we get offline, I'll talk because I also worked at the Pentagon too. So and what you're saying about high visibility. And I remember when I first started there, a few friends asked me, "Do you feel afraid?" Like, so I guess it falls under like imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Have you ever experienced that, and how do you work through it?
I experience imposter syndrome a lot. Um, a lot. I am a natural introvert, um, but I show up when I
Mm.
have to. But that comes from a lot of self work, right? Building myself up because it was times where I felt inadequate and not on the same level playing field as my peers.
Right.
Um, I got the opportunity. My last contract, my last job, I worked at a big four, and I came in, I transferred to this new contract. This was a high visible contract. And I was just, you know, starting out. Um, the team lead, she was there. She was very smart. I loved her. And she was a Black woman as well. Lo and
Mm.
behold, 2 weeks in a new contract, she's like, I'm leaving. I was like, where are you going? She said, I have a new opportunity. This doesn't work for me. I'm leaving. So my manager at the time said, okay, um, I I need to find another team lead. So she pulled me to the side and said, I'm recommending you to be a team lead. I
Um,
said, oh, wait, I just want to work. I don't want to be a team lead. That is, I just had no interest at the time. My manager said, okay, took her recommendation. I talked to her offline. We had a meeting, and then he's like, Bri'onna, I want you to be the team lead of our 14 engineers. And I'm like,
woo!
I'm the youngest on the team.
Wow.
I have some experience with leading, but leading 14 information security officers and engineers
Right.
with a major contract that my agency had was unheard of for me.
Yeah.
I've reported to a 3-star general at the time, and I felt like where God was moving me, I'm like, God, why are you putting me through this? And I didn't ask for this, but I realized God doesn't give you what you ask for. He gives you what you need so we can rely on him, right? So through that experience, although I felt inadequate, and there were times I went home, I cried, but I was opening up my my books to study the controls. I was reading the past policies. I was drafting the documents needed that weren't there. I was contacting the engineers on different time zones. But I knew that that's what I needed to build me up. And I did my role, and I did it well for 2 years. And when my time was up, I told them it's time for me to step down. And I have no regrets because I got through it. It shaped me. It helped build my resilience, my confidence. I'm able to brief a senior level stakeholder, but also use plain English for people who don't have engineering background. So I think that was a good opportunity for me. But imposter syndrome is real because I lived it, and I felt like I was thrown into the fire, and I still came out. So, yeah.
And another thing that we didn't share, and I don't think I've said this before in an interview, is that having people skills is something that in STEM allows you to be in leadership. Like a lot of the people in traditional STEM from represented communities, they have very, what I would call, complex personalities. And so they can't always jive with anybody. So to me, it makes sense that you were tasked with being team lead because you have to have the technical and people skill, would you say?
Yes, I think that's very important. Very important.
Yeah. So this is my last question, and then I want you to close out by telling everybody how they can get in touch with you one more time, and then we'll
Okay.
say goodbye to everybody. But what is STEM, or what does STEM mean to you?
STEM means to me um, being able to listen, process, and execute.
Woo!
I think that being an active listener, processing the data and the information, and executing the task at hand is what STEM is all about. Um,
Absolutely.
being able to work closely with your peers, being able to take constructive criticism, being able to want to learn new technologies, and to
Mhm.
collaborate with others. I think that's what STEM truly means to me. And oddly enough, that you asked that, I feel like where the world is going with STEM, we can collectively together build more young Black and brown boys and girls in STEM if we teach them active listening, how to process and solve problems in their day-to-day life, and how to use those skills to become and develop whoever you want to be.
Absolutely. One of the things you said before is that for some reason we're pushed into the arts, whether it be athleticism, whatever, and being an athlete, it's technical training. It's a technical, and so if we could teach technical athletics, then we can also teach technical STEM. It's the same skill transferred across different industries. So I want to thank you for your time. Go ahead and tell everybody how to get in touch with you,
Yeah,
and we'll say bye to everybody.
yes. Thank you for having me. And again, I can be reached via LinkedIn at Bri'onna Williams, and that's Brionna. Last name is Williams. And I thank you for your time. This was a great conversation with you.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Thank you.